Hello friends, welcome to UGC EPG Pathshala module. I am Dr. Rashmi Rani Anand from Shahid Bhagat Singh College, Delhi University. Various water related programs and policies started in India in early years immediately after independence were National Rural Drinking Water Program in the year 1969, the Accelerated Rural Water Supply Program in the year 1972-73. Then in the year 1983, National Water Resource Council was formally established. But the first ever national water policy was adopted by the Government of India was in 1987 by the Ministry of Water Resources in order to govern the planning and development of water resources and their optimum utilization. The policy was based on the principles of conservation, protection, management and regulation of the vital and stressed natural resources, which incorporated legislative and executive actions on various levels of governance on water resources. In 1994, the 73rd Constitutional Amendment came into being, which makes provisions for assigning the responsibility of providing drinking water to the Panchayati Raj institutions. In the year 1999, there was the formation of separate Department of Drinking Water Supply in the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. Reforms in the rural drinking water sector were adopted in the year 1999 through Sector Reform Project on the pilot basis. The project incorporated the community in planning, implementation and management of drinking water related schemes. In the year 2002, the revised and updated National Water Policy was adopted by the National Water Resource Council on 1st April 2002. The policy emphasized on artificial recharge of groundwater, water conservation in house and traditional conservation program with rooftop conservation, desalinization of brackish water in coastal regions, to convert it into fresh water using low temperature techniques and traditional methods of recharging groundwater. It scaled up the sector reform pilot project to the whole country in the form of Swajal Dhara program for national drinking water supply. The program was the paradigm shift from supply driven to demand driven, centralized to decentralized implementation, and the government's role from service provider to facilitated. It was linked to Rajiv Gandhi National Drinking Water Mission program and provides safe water to villages that did not have adequate sources of safe water. It also tried to improve the level of services for villages which were earlier partially covered. In villages, hand pumps were financially incentivized. The Swajal Dhara was based on the adoption of a demand responsive approach with community participation. Under this scheme, management of water supply and sanitation became the responsibility of Panchayati Raj and local government bodies. The other important element of this program was to contribute to the cost of providing safe drinking water. During this period, National Water Policy was also linked to the Millennium Development Goals, under which the proportion of people without sustainable access of safe water were also targeted. The 2002 policy had several debatable issues, but it also incorporated several positive elements which were not present in earlier policies. In the year 2005, India launched the Bharat Nirman program with the emphasis on providing drinking water within a period of 5 years. From 2009 onwards, it was renamed as the National Rural Drinking Water Program. Right now, the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation administers the National Rural Drinking Water Program, and it extends its support to the states for implementing rural domestic water supply schemes. Activities like water quality monitoring and surveillance program, management information system, capacity and communication development unit all were brought under the umbrella of National Rural Drinking Water Program. Despite the combined efforts of both the centre and the state governments investing more than rupees 1,35,000 crore, the goal of providing safe and adequate domestic water to every rural person in the country till date is not fully achieved. In the year 2008, National Water Mission was started in India. The National Water Mission is one of the 8th mission in the National Action Plan on Climate Change to tackle the threats of global warming. The objective of National Water Mission is conservation of water, minimizing wastage and ensuring its equitable distribution both across and within states through integrated water resources development and management. 5 goals identified in the National Water Missions were maintenance of comprehensive water database in public domain and assessment of the impact of climate change on water resources, promotion of citizen and state action for water conservation, augmentation and preservation. Focused attention to vulnerable areas including overexploited areas, increasing water use efficiency by 20%. Under this, command area development and water management was implemented. Micro irrigation like drip and sprinkle irrigation was also emphasized, which also saves water. Promotion of basin level integrated water resource management. In the year 2012, the Ministry of Water Resources formulated the draft on national water policy in consultation with National Water Board and National Water Resource Council. The 2012 water policy introduces the pricing mechanism for overuse of water. It introduces plans to levy tariff for all water uses including irrigation if it exceeds predetermined quota on volumetric basis. In order to execute this, State Water Regulatory Authority was established in every state which will fix and regulate the water rates. Responsibility of tariff collection, fixing rates and water distribution remains with Water Users Association in states. It calls for a common integrated perspective to govern the planning and management of water resources. Such a perspective would consider local, regional and national context and be environmentally sound. As per the policy, water needs to be managed as a community resource under the state. The principal aims are using scientific inputs from research for better agricultural strategies for management of soil, land, energy and water, enhancing the soil and water productivity along with managing drought. A principle was laid down to govern and prioritize the allocation of water. The policy was laid down for water on the basis for priority as follows: drinking water, irrigation, hydropower, navigation, industrial and other uses. This policy raised the debate of privatization of basic necessity like water, which is directly associated with the right to life. The policy was put in the public domain to enlist the suggestions from a wide spectrum. The privatization of water started a new debate in the country whether water should be charged or not. The arguments made for pro-privatization of water is that excessive usage of water in the irrigation and conservation of water can only be checked through tariff as water is a limited natural resources. The excessive subsidy on electricity has led to the extreme exploitation of water for irrigation in Green Revolution belt. Privatized utility charges will encourage investments in bringing new technologies, improving services and water quality. The arguments made against privatization of water suggest that it does not serve the public and increases the vulnerability of the poor. It may also give the right to private business to utilize water sources that is allocated for rural communities, peasants for irrigation. It can also be stated that with growing urbanization, industrialization, there is a growing demand of water in cities. City dwellers with high purchasing power will have more access to water for themselves, leaving rural India poverty stricken in terms of water also. In my opinion, water being basic element must not be privatized as it is a fundamental for life and health. Right to water is essential in order to live a life with human dignity. It is a condition for achieving all other human rights. It must be treated as social and cultural good rather than economic good. In the year 2014, Government of India's flagship program Namami Gange program was started to accomplish the twin objective of effective reduction of pollution, conservation and rejuvenation of national river Ganga. River Ganga and Yamuna recently got the status of living entity by High Court of Uttarakhand to protect these rivers. In the year 2016, government had placed National Water Framework Bill, and then after public comments were invited for the same. The draft National Water Framework Bill defines water for life as one of the core requirements for the fundamental rights of the life of each human being, including drinking, cooking, bathing, sanitation, personal hygiene and related personal and domestic uses. It states that water shall not be denied to anyone on the ground of inability to pay. It also includes that water needed for sustenance of domestic livestock and the requirement for women for their special needs. Interlinking of river program. The idea of interlinking of river is very old. British wanted to interlink river for the cheap transportation of raw materials. It was Sir Arthur Cotton's vision to link the Ganga and Kaveri to improve connectivity for navigation purposes. It got a push in 1982 when National Water Development Agency was established as an autonomous body to carry out the water balance and feasibility studies of the river linking program. And NWDA identified 14 links under the Himalayan river component and 16 links under peninsular river components for inter-basin transfer of water based on field surveys and investigation and detailed studies. However, not much progress was made later. The project was put on hold owing to interstate disputes and opposition from farmers, tribal groups, civil societies and environmentalists. In the year 2012, Supreme Court directed the Ministry of Water Resources to constitute an experts committee to pursue the matter with the state governments. The mission of this program is to ensure greater equity in the distribution of water by enhancing the availability of water in drought prone and rained areas. Recently, interlinking of river program has once again become the matter of national importance and has been taken up on high priority. It got boost with successful linking of Godavari and Krishna in the year 2015 and Shipra and Narmada interlink in 2016, benefiting people of Devas district in Madhya Pradesh. The next project being taken up is Ken and Betwa link. Advantages of interlinking. It would resolve the issues of variability of rainfall in India. It will be helpful in managing flood and drought like situation through inter-river basin water transfer. It will also improve irrigation facility and hence agricultural productivity. It will also create jobs with the construction of inland waterways and many more. Now let us talk about the disadvantages of interlinking. It would affect environment, ecology and marine life. It will also displace people. It would cause problem in case river changes its courses. Not talking about the challenges of river interlinking, we can say that there is a topographical difference between Indo-Gangetic plain and peninsular plateau, due to which water needs to be pumped up in order to establish link between low-setting Indo-Gangetic rivers and high-setting peninsular rivers. Water-rich states like Assam, Sikkim and Kerala etc. do not want to share their water and hence opposing the idea as they want exclusive right to use their water resources. Now let us talk about rainwater harvesting policy. Although rainwater harvesting is mandatory in most of the cities in India, but it is not stringently practiced at household levels or community level. Regular training should be given to people to repair and protect water harvesting structures and make it part of behavioral practices of an individual. Construction of water storage must be promoted so that water storage can meet at immediate basis. Experts says that if cities start harvesting 20% of its rainwater, then a significant proportion of their water needs will be fulfilled by water harvesting. In New Delhi, since June 2001, the Ministry of Urban Development has made rainwater harvesting mandatory in all new buildings with a roof area of more than 100 square meter and in all plots with an area of more than 1000 square meter that are being developed. Despite it being a law, several factors have contributed to the failure of rainwater harvesting, which include inadequate financial assistance, long procedures and poor maintenance of structures once they are built. Now let us discuss conclusion. Extracting water beyond the cycle of hydrological renewal can lead to permanent loss of water resources. Similarly, putting in too much pollution will lead to severe degradation of water capital. This may have a disastrous impact on the health of people as the vulnerable sections such as economically poor may lose access to safe water. The socio-economic impact may also be catastrophic if water becomes a scarce resource. There have already been instances of unrest among people over lack of access to water in several cities of India, including Delhi. Thus, there is a need to manage the water resource of the country in a responsible manner. There should be a focus on conservation of water as well as maintaining the quality of water resources. This responsibility is not of government alone, but of each individual citizen of the country. Thank you.